Just a few more seconds. Okay, I think we're ready to go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our in-session talk, Empowering Artistic Practice in Uncertain Times. We have approximately 200 guests registering for the event from 35 countries. Thank you. Before we introduce you to our esteemed speakers, Despina, Marili, and Dimitra, I'd like to cover a few housekeeping items. Today's webinar is being recorded. We will share the recording on our event page at some point next week. We invite you to ask questions by using the Q&A function. You can upvote the questions if you like. We will endeavor to get through as many questions as time allows. And without further ado, please join me in welcoming our speakers. I'm going to hand you over to Despina, who is going to start today's conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Jo, and welcome everyone. It's my pleasure today to be chairing today's in-session discussion on empowering artistic practice in uncertain times. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Despina Zacharopoulou. I'm the Contemporary Art Summer School Short Course Leader at the Royal College of Art, a performance artist, a theorist, and an academic. I'm also one of the selected artists who were awarded the Stavros Niarchos Foundation Artworks Fellowship for the year 2021. On that note, I'm truly delighted to have with me today the two co-founders and program directors of Artworks, the Stavros Niarchos Foundation Artist Fellowship Program. Please join me in welcoming Marili Konstantinopoulou and Dimitra Nikolou. Thank you, ladies, for joining us. I will present briefly both of them. So Marili Konstantinopoulou studied engineering and holds a master's degree in techno-economic systems, in environment and development, and a diploma in science, technology, and society studies. Apart from her scientific background, she has also studied fine art photography at the École Supérieure Nationale de la Photographie d'Arles in France, and documentary practice and visual journalism at the International Center of Photography in New York. Marili has work experience in cultural and environmental management. She worked at the Museum of Modern Art in New York, Department of Research and Development, a position supported by the Stavros Niarchos Foundation, and has also served as a consultant on cultural affairs at the Hellenic Parliament. She is the co-founder of Artworks and also works as a business development associate for the social enterprise Blue Cycle, dedicated to the recycling and reuse of plastic waste generated from shipping and fishing activities. So thank you, Marili, for joining us.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. And Dimitra Nikolou studied law at the University of Athens. She's a member of Athens Bar Association. She also studied history of art at the University Paris 1 Panthéon-Sorbonne and art market MA at the same university. She also holds a master's degree in business administration from the Athens University of Economics and Business and is a globally certified project manager by the PMI USA. Apart from her experience as a legal advisor and before co-founding Artworks, Dimitra worked in several areas of the art world. At the Museum of Modern Art, MoMA, Department of Architecture and Design, Curatorial Affairs, a position supported by the Stavros Niarchos Foundation. At Christie's and Drouot auction houses in Paris, and as advisor scientific associate at the Bank of Greece Center for Culture, Research and Documentation, where she curated exhibitions, catalogs, and worked on the digitization and the management of the art collection. Thank you, Dimitra, for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you also, Despina. It's really nice to be here tonight.
Happy to have you today with us to discuss, as Joe said, empowering artistic practice in uncertain times. So let's break down this sentence. What does empowering mean? What does uncertainty mean? How does it affect artists? Is uncertainty necessarily a bad thing? So let me hear your thoughts.
Okay, first of all, let's just start by saying that how do we translate empowerment? So in our case, we translate empowerment takes the form of supporting artists, caring for them. So this is our basis for the discussion. Mm-hmm. And so as far as uncertainty, where does uncertainty reside in this case? So where do we begin? We live in a very trying times. We're in a state of perpetual crisis, moving from one crisis into another with small breaks in between, if any. So now we're kind of facing simultaneous crises, you know, the climate crisis, financial crisis, energy crisis, refugee crisis, political crisis, the war. So it has been very kind of overwhelming these past years. And this has always been, but you know, generally uncertainty has always been at the forefront for every generation, but only now, you know, uncertainty has become very, very real. So how does it affect artists? First of all, let's just say that it affects pretty much everyone at this point, and even more artists, because as we know, there's no linearity in the profession. So it is also, you know, generally it's a more kind of a more particular field in a way. And but at the same time, uncertainty lies at the core of creativity, and artists are more familiar, you know, with uncertainty in the creative process to begin with, and then they're also facing great uncertainty in their profession. So this can be also like, you know, they're more familiar with uncertainty in a way, and at the same time, uncertainty is not necessarily only a bad thing, but it's also like a good thing. So if you're more familiar with it, you can become more liberated and, you know, be more free to create in a way compromise. You don't make you have nothing to lose in these kind of trying times.
Yeah, so I'm going to be more on the pessimistic side, I would say. I totally agree with Dimitra that, yes, well, I don't know how anyone could avoid feeling uncertain during our time. So why wouldn't artists, you know? But at the same time, I have to say that the world has always been in a state of upheaval. And this is something that artists have somehow embraced. Just by being so receptive to what has been going on around them and to what the future holds, but also receptive to their own vulnerability. So becoming an artist is most of the time, you know, a vulnerable path that comes with great risk and uncertainty. For some, not knowing what is around the corner could inspire great art, raising questions about matters about the increasingly unstable and entangled world in which we live in. But others might also get intimidated with all this uncertainty. So it's really a personal thing, how you face uncertainty. In fact, it's a matter of perception. For me, the problem is more about precariousness and the shared sense of insecurity, especially when it becomes everlasting. And I think that is the case when we talk about artists. Their insecurity stems from the instability related to their working conditions. And again, like uncertainty, precariousness, of course, might have an upside potential to it, which could help us understand better how we're all interdependent. But when you put it in the context of permanent employment or underemployment for artists, it's certainly troubling and not something I would call a source of inspiration. So yeah, that's the pessimist speaking.
I would have to agree with both of you. For sure, being an art practitioner myself, uncertainty and risk are some of the key things that I even strive to create by myself in order to give a certain kind of urgency in my work. And if I don't feel uncertain, if I don't feel at risk, then I have the sense that something is wrong with my art. So I really need to be and to feel on the edge. However, as you said, Marili, there is a kind of plateau that one can, above which one might operate. If basic needs are not met and uncertainty is so big that makes one dysfunctional, then, as you said, Marili, this creates more problems than benefits. So I think the situation that we are facing for the past years globally with the pandemic and the war in Ukraine right now, but more locally also in Greece, that we have a financial crisis from 2010 onwards, all of these conditions, they create a very difficult and uncertain situation for artists. And this is why we are here today, to see how institutions might empower or support contemporary art practice during unforeseen situations. And then maybe we can discuss about access, inclusion, diversity, who is included in this offer of empowerment and who is not, what are the selection criteria for the people who get to be empowered, and maybe we can then see what are the expected outcomes of this empowerment.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it would be interesting to hear your thoughts.
Shall I go first, Dimitra? Okay,
please.
So whether public or private, first and foremost, the institutions should provide financial relief. There is a good example that I can bring up for the conversation. It's called the Artist Relief Initiative, that was put together by a coalition of grant makers in the US. Mm-hmm. And they, during the first 2 years of the pandemic, they gave support to individual artists due to the COVID crisis in the form of emergency grants. So they gave almost 23 million to more than 4,500 artists, which is amazing. These numbers are huge compared to compared to what has been offered elsewhere. And of course, the scale of the support always depends on different factors, including geography and the available resources. Exactly. In Greece, it was quite promising, the fact that in 2020, the Greek artistic community came together under the Support Art Workers movement and demanded to receive support from the state. Because as most of the artistic activities were suspended. From what I know, they did receive individual allowances, but just minimum amounts to get by for a few months. And of course, the government cannot sufficiently serve everyone in need. And this is why, like several other private initiatives and institutions, like Dimitra and myself, are trying to fill the gaps through in many different ways. And I'm not sure if now it's the right moment to talk a little bit about artworks, since not everyone might have had the time to read about us and our work. So yeah, every year we offer monetary awards to Greek artists between the ages of 25 and 40 years old who work with fine and visual arts, moving image, choreography, and dance. Apart from artists, we also support curators. And so far, we have supported 310 individuals. We always stress the fact that we offer direct support to individuals because that is something that discerns us from other initiatives. That in order to provide support to artists, they require from them to establish some kind of legal entity, such as a production company or a non-profit organization. So basically, since 2018, every year we announce our open call, and through a rigorous selection process, we select the artists and curators who will receive the award of 8,000 euros. After receiving the prize, which is unrestricted in the sense that the awardees do not have to produce or deliver anything throughout the course of the fellowship, we encourage them to attend a series of lectures, talks, workshops, studio visits, mentoring sessions, group visits to galleries and museums, and any other skill sharing event that could be useful for them and inspiring. Every cycle of the fellowship lasts about 8 months, which means that during that period, the selected artists and curators have the opportunity to further research and develop their work without having to worry about their everyday survival, in a way.
It's important.
Our goal has been to create a community around the fellowship and nurture a safe environment for everyone to share ideas. And I think that brings us back to your previous, the first question about empowering artists in uncertain times. So for us, it's not only about financial support, but moral as well. And that's what we have been trying to do to achieve through the fellowship program.
Yeah, that's great. And I was wondering if any of you could elaborate a little bit further on the selection criteria and why, for example, this age range, like 25 to 40, why these disciplines, like why people that have a Greek citizenship, why these criteria and selection process, let's say.
So yeah, when we started Artworks in 2017, first of all, this initiative, we need to really stress this out. It's been supported by our founding donor, the Stavros Niarchos Foundation. So without this support, none of this would have happened. Mm-hmm. So when we decided with Marili to collaborate on this initiative and move forward with Artworks, it was 2017. So Greece was already 7 years in the midst of a financial crisis. And we started researching on what were the areas that needed complementary support. So we realized that there were many kind of areas that would need a little bit more of support, but we had to target like a specific area in order to kind of, build this organization and start from somewhere, because also for us, it was something new and it was a large scale. As Marili told before, in 4 years, we have supported so far 310 people. So it's quite a large scale for Greece. So first of all, we decided that we wanted to be a large scale, like unrestricted monetary awards to many people. And then we had to, start building something that would be manageable. So we realized that we had to target specific age range. First of all, we wanted to focus on in Greek people, since this was the real need at the time. And it still is, because after the financial crisis, all these other crises have appeared. So it's always every period is a period where support is needed. So first of all, we focused on Greek people, and then since this initiative was under the initiative Recharging the Youth, we also focused in the age range 25 to 35 for our first and pilot year of the program. And then we extended this from 25 to 40 years old. Mm-hmm. And in the beginning, we focused in visual arts and moving image, and then we extended the support to dance, choreography, and curators, as we realized that there was also need for support in those other disciplines. And also we wanted to create this kind of crossover between disciplines, so that as many artists and arts professionals would come together to, to talk with each other, to take the time to reflect, explore ideas, and to kind of, see how different methodologies and different types of creation meet each other. So yeah, that was the rationale at the time, and it still is after all these years.
May I add something to what you're saying about the crossover?
Absolutely.
The fact that the age range is now 25 to 40 allows us to support both recent graduates as well as mid-career artists, which is also interesting in the sense of sharing expertise of different levels.
Yeah, I agree with you. First of all, as I'm an Artworks fellow myself, I get to experience this support and empowerment firsthand. And it's interesting to see through the presentations of the fellows that there is a plurality of voices of people who live in Greece. Some of them, they are Greek, but some of them, they are coming from families of refugees.
Second generation.
Exactly, which I find really important, because we see in this way that empowerment might also help people who actually have a need that they might not have access to art education, that they might not have the money to develop their artistic career. And of course, create a diverse environment and a polyvocal community, which of course might extend from the people who receive the financial support of any institute, not only Artworks, but I suppose worldwide, because once someone gets a certain kind of support, it's really important to share this with other people from the art community, or not even only the art community. It can be community in general, to create community-based projects. And somehow this support extends and creates a kind of rhizomatic expansion to other areas as well.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, what you said about the different stages of the art career that someone might have, and how important it is to learn from each other. I also see that, for example, through my capacity as the course leader of the Contemporary Art Summer School at the Royal College of Art, where we accept applications from people at different stages of their career. They might be recent graduates, they might be established artists, they might even come from non-artistic backgrounds and want to focus on fine art. Of course, all of them, they need to have good quality body of work. So in order to be able to coexist, but there is no restriction regarding, the CV that someone might have. So in this sense, inclusion and diversity is a kind of empowerment during these times of uncertainty.
for sure.
And
Definitely.
again, I find important what you said, Marili, about the outcomes. That and I think this is something that we can also discuss a little bit. What is expected from an artist that gets to be empowered by a certain kind of institution? Is there a give and take relationship? So what would you like to comment about?
First, let me just say one thing about the criteria, because all these criteria that we have come up with, which is, you know, the age, the medium, the level of experience, nationality, and the financial criteria, all these criteria have resulted in narrowing down the selection, which it's very crucial to us to be able to manage the amount of applications we receive every year. We wish we could support more people, you know, and people without an artistic background necessarily, but we are focused on artistic merit, and this is why it's an award, you know. Just to give you an estimate from the applications we receive every year, almost 10% of the applicants receive the award. So with time, yes, we're hoping to become more inclusive. But yeah, let's see how that's gonna work out, and hopefully there are gonna be more initiatives and programs that can fill in the gaps that we are not able to complete, whether it's private or public. About regarding the outcomes, the expected outcomes, at least in our case, it is very intentional not to expect outcomes from the support we give. Essentially, what we offer is time and freedom and the energy to do what is best for the artists without having them to worry about delivering results. For example, we have all gone through, you know, deadlines and having to produce works or commissioned works, etc. And also, time and freedom should not be considered the future of luxury. We should all work towards creating the right circumstances for enjoying them freely. And although there are no expected outcomes in the sense of deliverables, it's always nice to hear that through our program, the participants make meaningful connections between them, with each other, useful connections with arts professionals that they meet through the events we organize, and of course, forge collaborations, synergies, partnerships, coalitions, whatever it is that, you know, brings them together, and as you said, allows them to learn from one another and work together.
Yeah, that's really important. Totally. Dimitra, would you like to add anything?
No, I think you've got everything covered, really. That's exactly the intention, was actually to have unrestricted awards. This was the long shot. It was a leap of faith, you know, trust artists, give them the time to reflect, experiment. Don't ask for a deliverable, just let them be for 8 months, do whatever they need to do, and see where that takes us. And so far it has worked well.
Yeah, and on that note, as I also see in the chat, it's important for the people who are listening now, if it would be really great to read their own experiences of empowerment or funding, or, you know, empowerment doesn't have to be funding only. It can be other kinds of empowerment as well. So it would be very interesting to know your opinion. So if you want to write down in the chat, it would be really great.
And, you know, if I may add something on this, it's first of all, this award is a monetary award, so it is financial support, but we kind of want to see ourselves as, you know, two people in an organization in general that cares about the artists and offers also moral support. You know, like it's it's also very important to kind of bring people together, to build bridges between them, to kind of offer this kind of safe environment, a safe platform for them to exchange ideas. So this is also very important, and kind of it also proved to be important during the pandemic, when we had to kind of make all the program digital. And, you know, everyone was, you know, we were facing these very troubling times. So it was really nice that we had like this kind of weekly meeting with the fellows, and we discussed freely on matters. You know, we kept our sanity in a way, being all together.
You were forced to socialize in a way.
Yeah, exactly.
Important to be around people, you know.
Of course, of course. And actually, on that note, it's important also to see how different countries respond to this question of empowerment, and institutions from different countries around the world. For example, I suppose that Belgium or Holland or the UK, they have already a certain kind of infrastructure that supports the artistic practice. The reason why we are focusing in Greece is because there are not many initiatives. And of course, the reason why you are invited here today is because the Artworks initiative is something that came to fill the gaps, as Marily said, and support artists that have graduated, because of course, when someone studies, they already have the option of a scholarship. So this was already covered. And then, as already mentioned, in Greece at least, most of the support is given to legal entities of artistic groups. So this is the importance of the Artworks move, that it supports individual artists. And again, as you both said, that there is no required outcome once someone receives the award. And of course, this shows us something about the value of the artist as a non-exchangeable value, and as a person who needs the time and the space to create without having a linear trajectory of thought that, okay, I have to make something by that deadline, for example. So I think this is a very good example for other countries as well, this idea of not having a specific desired outcome.
You know, sometimes it's also nice to work with deadlines. It helps you concentrate, you know, and
of course,
put yourself together. I think what probably sometimes artists might lose when they have to undertake commissioned works is the fact, you know, that maybe the producers try to kind of curate their work, you know, direct them towards a certain path, and they end up doing like a work that is not necessarily the work that they had envisioned initially, but it's something that, you know, satisfies the commissioner. So also there's always a need for more research, doing more research about your work. True. And this is also something that we have taken into consideration. And that's why the fact that it's an unrestricted award without a deliverable, we think it's a good incentive for artists to a little bit go deeper in their research.
Yeah, true.
More time. Yes, as I said, it's mostly about time and freedom.
Exactly. So now let's go to a more general question, a more philosophical question, I would say. Given that the 21st century has proven to establish a permanent state of exception to borrow Giorgio Agamben's words, where state bankruptcies, pandemics, wars, and energy crises seem to define a model of governmentality that is here to stay, shaping the everyday within a constant state of uncertainty. What would your thoughts be in relation to the ways that artists would exist in this new paradigm shift of this state of exception? For those who are not familiar with Agamben's work, Agamben uses this phrase, state of exception, in order to describe all these states of emergency that arise, for example, a civil war, a pandemic, that make a suspension of the law, and as a result, very important and basic, for example, human rights or working conditions and all that might be taken away or suspended, using as a pretext this state of exception, this state of urgency. So one might say that we no longer exist in a certain kind of paradigm that a state of exception arises within the course of history by accident, or, you know, like history makes circles, but sometimes a state of exception is used as a way to govern. And as a result, now we are constantly in this state of urgency. So I was wondering, what do you think about this paradigm? How does it affect artists? How they can exist? What does it show for this idea of empowerment? And maybe what are the pathologies that this paradigm shift reveals in regards to the way that art is being supported right now?
I think this question, I will not be philosophical at all, first of all. And I just think that this question somehow resumes everything we have talked about already, bringing us back to the necessity of empowering artists in uncertain and precarious times, allowing them to exist without constantly having to struggle for meeting their basic needs. Which will eventually allow them to coexist meaningfully with society at large, and through their work inspire us to engage thoughtfully with one another and our communities, and make steps towards social progress, I would hope. So yeah, I think we should help artists for them to help us, you know, live a better life. And we are all living under this state of exception these days. And yeah, it's hard for everyone, but especially for artists. And I would highlight again the fact that they work under very precarious conditions, and that's their main problem. And that's where we should all put our energy and efforts to support them and help them create, you know, a stable everyday life. Because we are all, you know, allowed to have one, and they should be as well.
True. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with Marie. And also, we have to really kind of, you know, construct like a basic framework to have like a certain stability in those uncertain times. So there is a necessity, you know, for a support mechanism, a high-level plan, cooperation between the private and the public sector, as well as, you know, varied, well-functioning institutions where each one can act in a complementary way. Since, you know, we're facing very complex problems right now, so a lot of people have to become involved from private and public sector in order to address those problems, and also, you know, to kind of fulfill the needs of all artists, regardless of their career stage.
I agree with you that there has to be a kind of synergy and collaboration among different areas of the public and private sector. Even if we think that empowerment is not only about funding, as we said again and again during this session, and it's also about feeling safe, feeling supported, communicating with others, knowing your rights, your legal rights. So, for example, a very important thing would be to offer legal support to artists on a permanent basis. Like this state of exception shows us that maybe the artistic practice is already precarious as it is. So we don't really need a war in order to grasp that artists need a kind of safety net in order to be able to continue with their practice.
Yeah.
And of course, another very significant element, which not only concerns the artistic community, but everybody, I guess, is the idea of mental health. I have the sense that after the COVID-19 outbreak, all the mental health support systems somehow started failing.
Yeah.
The moment they had to be stronger and here for everybody, this moment they were just weaker than ever. So I think that it's also important to raise this issue. Maybe mental health and states of exception could be a whole in-session event by itself. But I thought that it's important to raise it here as well.
Yes, it's super important. And thank you for highlighting this. Physical and mental well-being is crucial for everyone, just to be productive. And, you know, and also this also comes to the discussion we had, not before, but like recently, the fight or flight response.
Exactly.
That, you know, we are trying to have the fight response, but when things get really overwhelming, it can also be kind of paralyzing. So this is what we really have to address. You know, we really have to. That's where, you know, I'm a pessimistic person, but like now I do think that we have to become very optimistic in order to kind of move forward despite all the difficulties around us. And yeah, mental health is crucial at this point. It has become, it has been very stressful for everyone.
Yeah, even people who didn't have any mental health issues, now everybody is in a post-traumatic stress disorder situation because of all the unforeseen situations that we had to face.
And nobody talks about it because, you know, there's a war going on and you're supposed to feel grateful just for living so far away from the war. Not everyone, but yeah, it's something complicated how to cope with mental health these days. It's definitely a taboo issue in Greece. Nobody talks about it. Like if you when you get an interview in a company, they might ask you to see a psychiatrist, but it's the only time that they will, you know, let you see a psychiatrist. Actually, the rest of the time you should be hiding whatever is wrong with you. Nobody follows up on mental health issues, and for sure it's a huge gap we should consider somehow filling.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Maybe also, you know, maybe we can take this all these crises and all these difficult trying times as a lesson. So maybe things will start to gradually change, and, you know,
Yeah, for sure. It's not necessary to resist, though, to the vulnerability that one finds themselves in while being in an unforeseen situation. We don't really have to be happy all the time. But of course, we need support in times that all these emotions and mental states might become dysfunctional and even threatening for one's life. I think on that note, maybe we could see some questions at the Q&A. So we have a first question from an anonymous attendee. When is the next Artworks open call? Last year it was around this time. Thanks.
It's cooking right now. Yes, we will announce it quite soon, around May.
We
Great.
normally announce it in March, but since, yes, it's the uncertainty of our times and the state of exception, we took a little bit more time to prepare, but it's coming up in May 2022. So get ready.
Thank you for this response. And then we have another question from an anonymous attendee. What institutions are in UK to support the artist? So from my experience, the most well-known is the Arts Council. And then again, of course, there are many open calls from, different institutions about studio residencies, opportunities. I don't know if you have anything else to suggest, if you know anything about the UK.
I would also say the Arts Council, yeah.
Yeah, it's the most well-known. But then you see, for example, the Somerset House, or they might announce open calls for studios, or different smaller institutions.
Also some residency programs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
like the Despina Foundation.
Exactly, the Delfino Foundation.
Partnering since 2018. It's a great program for those who don't know it. Delfina Foundation. Maybe we should put it up write it on the chat.
Yeah.
Yes, maybe we should just take a minute and
also
talk about the foundations and the residencies, Marie.
Yeah, that's another way that we have thought of. It could be a good way of empowering artists after they graduate the program. Some of the fellows get the opportunity to travel abroad and do a residency program. Not any residency program. We have been partnering with 4 programs, the Delfina Foundation in London, ISCP in New York, Saha in Istanbul, and K3 in Hamburg. So it's also, of course, important to travel abroad, to gain more experience, to meet colleagues from all over the world, and work under different situations and conditions. And let alone networking, especially when you have the chance to spend some time in a metropolis like New York or London. Of course, these are good places to make connections and see a lot of great artworks as well, and museums.
Yes, and grow more and become, part of the, of a wider network.
The international community, instead of being local.
And this is something that, of course, helps someone overcome the funding or supporting or empowering problems that their own country might have when they apply to an international residency. And also, if one does some research on the types of residencies that there are out there, they addressed to different target groups. For example, there are residencies for mothers that they can go with their children. Amazing. Or with their partner. Yeah. Or for different age groups or for different career stages.
Mm-hmm. There is one in Greece for families.
Ah, great. For
example, I'm going to look it up.
Yeah, please. And if you can type it in the chat, it would be great. Also, yeah, Amal Kla also asks Maril if you can type the name of the residency. And also Claire Ward mentions in the chat joyaair.org, that it's a great residency. And then I'm going back to the Q&A. And we have from Edie Bocage, who was one of our students at the Contemporary Art Summer School. Hello, Edie. She has a comment. She says, it is more a comment. For me, the state of exception we are living in creates a battle feeling. I need to pass over all of the exceptional situations to be able to start working. I have to intentionally set my mind in another state to create. I find that is where I need support. It is emotional. Yeah, I agree. And this is very, actually, it has to do a lot with the way trauma is, it has to do a lot with the way that someone responds to trauma. If this is what we said before, if you try to fight it, to fight this difficult state of exception that we live in and put it aside as if you split yourself in two, this is a certain kind of way of dealing with it. Another way would be to accept it and go with the flow and what happens around you and put it into your practice. Personally, I am more into the second methodology of accepting what happens around us, to be attuned, to be vulnerable, and then see what we can do with all the things that we get from this attunement. And then we have another comment from Annie Trevora, another ex-student from the Contemporary Art Summer School, who is now an MA student in sculpture at the RCA. Hello, Annie. The catalyst, Annie says, the catalyst for my sense of empowerment came from Despina's summer course. Oh, thank you. And I went on to study for a sculpture MA at the RCA. Thank you, Annie. Does artworks allow money to go towards further study? This is a question for you.
Yes, at the beginning, the first and pilot year, we thought of focusing on Greek artists who mainly work in Greece, but during the next cycles of the program, we found out that there is no reason to restrict artists from, continuing their studies abroad or traveling abroad. And therefore, this is not anymore a prerequisite. I mean, we don't ask them to tell us how they're going to allocate, how they're going to use the grant they receive. But so yes, they can use this money for funding their studies. The thing is that the amount we give, it's the same for everyone. It's 8,000 euros. So if somebody is in need for more than that amount, that's something we cannot help them with. That's the only issue.
It's okay. We if we had the possibility to help everybody and give them, all the need, everything that they needed, it would be the best.
So yeah, so again, it's not in the frame of giving support for specifically per se ad hoc for studies, but it's most mostly more like the support of the unrestricted monetary award, and how the fellows are going to choose to select how they're going to use this money.
Thank you. So next question from Gertrude Gibbons. What strategies do you think are best for reaching out to those in high need of support in the margins of the artistic community? In parentheses, those may be at highest risk of falling in the gaps. How might one reach those who aren't on traditional platforms? What do you think about this question?
That's a great
Are there any strategies for reaching out to those people?
It's a great
Maybe
question.
this is also a question of how do you promote the empowerment that you can give?
That's the thing that it's an open call procedure. So we try to promote it as much as we can through many different platforms. And again, it mostly works through word of mouth. So that doesn't mean that it would reach these people that are underserved. But one other criterion that we do have, it's the financial criterion, which means that for anyone who, in order for somebody to be able to apply, they need to show evidence that their income hasn't exceeded the amount of 12,000 euros in the past fiscal year. That doesn't exactly answer the question, but what I'm trying to say is that we are trying to think of people who do not have enough resources from other sources. And just by announcing the open call sometime before it actually opens, and being very transparent with our selection committee members and the whole process, we're hoping that we can attract also these people who are underserved.
Thank you, Marily. I think we have one last question, and then we have to wrap up, I'm afraid, which is a very important question, I must say. It's a question from Daisha Sangavi. I hope I pronounce your name correctly, Daisha. So the question is, are there any mental health support programs for artists and designers in London, especially in finding jobs, since the process of creating art design in general can be so isolating? And it's so personal that when in a negative mind space, it directly affects our ability to be creative and produce any work. I'm going to reply to this question from experience as a person with borderline personality disorder. What I would suggest, first of all, if you are an art student, please go to the support office of your school. Usually every university has mental health advisors. Then, of course, someone should go to their GP for a first assessment, and then ask for further assessment from a specialist, which is very important. And then once you go to this path, there are many places that can help a person with mental health issues. One of them is the Recovery College, which is in St. George's Hospital. There are also some recovery cafes where you can find other people and support if you are in a crisis or in a state of need. But all these are mentioned to someone when they reach out for help. So you have to go to your GP, you have to go to a psychiatrist, and then they can direct you to the correct paths to follow to help yourself gain control in your life. I think that's it from the questions. Let me see the chat if we have anything else. We have some comments. Let me see. Zira from summer school again. Hello, Zira. She says, I agree with the comment before from Annie. Now I'm writing my MA thesis in fine art after taking the Contemporary Art Summer School 2017 summer course with Despina, who is also my source of inspiration. Thank you.
Getting many compliments today.
I didn't pay them. And then we have another comment from Aris Kotronis. Hi there, great talk. I'm Aris, a producer based in Athens. I'm in my first years of bringing my productions and projects into light.
Okay.
And this year I will need the support of everyone may be interested in my ongoing projects. Okay, this is I just launched my newly production. Okay, maybe this is more like an advertisement. I don't know.
I don't think so. Go ahead.
Oh no, he says, since I'm trying to support artists and filmmakers from Southeast Europe and together move forward on our ideas, does the Artworks program application support specific projects on development from a person or a person individual as myself? What is the preferable way to apply? Is there anyone that I can talk with to guide me before I apply? Oh my God, so many questions.
Okay.
Thank you a lot for your information and insight.
Yes, okay. So maybe, Aris, hello. Maybe you can consult our website.
Yeah, that's the
maybe you
best.
can also sign up to the newsletter. The website is art-works.gr. And you can also take a look there when we announce the open call to see if, you know, if it applies to you. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to you know, contact us via our email, contact at art-works. Why do I keep saying that? .gr.
Thank you, Dimitra.
So if you need any help, we will be there, and you know, we will assist you with any questions.
Thank you.
And good luck on your new adventure.
So I think we're done with the questions. We have some highs, hellos in the chat. Hello, Maciel. So yeah, I think we are done for today. Joe, would you like to say anything? Personally, I would like to thank Dimitra and Marili for joining us today. It was a real pleasure to have you discussing with us how to empower artistic practice in uncertain times, and to get to know the work of Artworks and how people can find you and apply if they want to.
Thank you so much for inviting us. And, you know, it's been an honor and a pleasure.
Thank you, Dimitra. Thank you, Marili.
Thank you. Also, thank you, Joe. Thank you, Peter, RCA, for having us.
Yes, thank you, everyone.
And everyone for joining.
Thank you, Despina. Thank you, Marili. Thank you, Dimitra, for sharing your thoughts and expertise. This was a really brilliant talk. And thank you to everyone who joined us for today's in-session talk. If you have any additional questions, or if you would like to connect directly with the executive education team and or the speakers, please use the contact information that you see on the slide. Please do follow us on social media at RCA Short Courses on Twitter and Instagram, and make sure to check our event webpage for upcoming in-session talks and how to register for free. We will make sure that we'll upload this talk on the website as well. And thank you everyone for your time. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.